That's all, folks. It looks like Cartoon Network is about done officially. There are multiple reports coming out now that this network is only making like $100 million a year.
No, that's not good.
That's not good. That's like a couple of shows. We're going to talk about this. We have been covering here on Clownfish TV for the past several years the decline of Cartoon Network. We have said before, it looks like Warner Brothers will probably shut it down. It does make a lot of sense. They have already vacated their studio. They've been kind of shutting it down by degrees. They shut some of the websites down. They don't seem to be making a lot of new content. Whatever new stuff they're making, they're kind of punting it over to HBO Max or whatever the hell they're calling it. And frankly, right now, Warner Brothers is on fire. I mean, it really is. It's not doing
Or they're
good.
selling it to whoever wants to buy it for the rights to put it on the, the theaters or whatever, on the streaming service.
Yeah, it's pretty much like what. So I'm thinking eventually what's going to happen is a lot of this stuff is going to get picked over. The carcass is going to get picked clean by other networks or other entities that actually wants to do something with it, right? So let's talk about the impending demise of Cartoon Network. Hashtag Clownfish was right. Hate to be right, but we were right. This is Kneon.
Right.
You love to be right.
I'm a woman. I'm always right. Anyway, go ahead.
She is always right. Yes, dear. Yes, dear. This is Kneon. This is Clownfish TV. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, Geeky Sparkles will give you a woohoo if you do.
Woohoo!
So, yeah, this is coming from Bloomberg. They broke the news, and they're calling it out. They said Cartoon Network's last gasp. This is it.
Not surprised.
They said the irreverent animation factory once cranked out hits, talent, and profit, but with David Zaslav's retreat from streaming kids programming, the future of the network is in question. Well, if you've been following our channel for any length of time, you will see that it means nothing to Zaslav. Like,
I just can't get past how bad this art is.
I know, right? I gotta can I zoom in on this a little bit?
So what we have on here, we have all these shows like just Powerpuff Girls. There's the Ice King from Adventure Time.
Yeah.
There's, Foster's Home right there. There's Dexter, Johnny Bravo, Over the Garden Wall.
God, look at
Samurai
Steven Universe.
Jack. Yeah. That's how I feel.
Steven Universe, like a Chowder. Poor Chowder. Chowder doesn't get, I'm going to tell you the truth. Chowder does not get enough love. I love Chowder.
They have,
that's a really good show.
Courage, regular
It's just
show.
Over. It's over.
There's all kinds of stuff on there.
So this is they start with the the usual flowery stuff. A group of animators headed out on foot through the streets of Burbank, cloaked in Mission Impossible style black outfits. At 10, they went to a deserted office. It was Cartoon Network.
Wait,
Cartoon
for
Network.
real? That's they did this for real?
Yeah, it said until recently, the facility was a place where young animators daydreamed of launching their creations into the world. Now it sits empty and foreboding another reminder of the grisly cost cuts that had been sweeping through Cartoon Network's parent company, Warner Brothers. Not just Warner Brothers, but Cartoon Network. I knew it was over as soon as they got rid of the studio. It's like, yeah, that's it. That's it.
So these people actually dressed in black and went to the deserted.
They wanted to go see the historic site that was Cartoon Network. And he doesn't give a crap. I mean, they had one of the Looney Tunes buildings. They're going to repurpose it. They don't care. He doesn't care. He doesn't care
really
about animation at all.
But like when we were, younger, Cartoon Network was like, I remember when it started.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
It was a huge deal for years. And look, they actually sum it up very nicely on Cartoon Brew. And again, not to be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy. Hashtag Clownfish was right. We've been talking about this for, my God, probably 5 years. And people said, everything is fine. It's all fine. Just like we said, hey,
Bigots.
Rooster Teeth isn't fine. Bigots. You must be some kind of Nazi if you think people don't like Steven Universe.
Billy and Mandy. Sorry, I was looking at the characters.
Better shows, better times.
Yeah, there's been so many. Tom and Jerry.
Tom and Jerry.
There's all kinds of shows they've had years and years and years. Well, originally Cartoon Network was just mostly this like older stuff, and then they made that into Boomerang.
Yeah. Yeah. And now they've got was it MeTV Tunes, which is running a lot of the old, and they actually picked up some of the Warner Brothers library, the Looney Tunes stuff, but they're actually running a lot of the old Cartoon Network stuff now because they don't care. They don't want to run a network. Why did it become the Teen Titans Go network for years? Because they didn't have to produce new content. They could just run it on loop and throw some ads into it. And for the people that were left watching, there you go. It's a babysitter. Watch Teen Titans Go for 14 hours. Timmy, shut up. But they weren't making new stuff.
Was just like on 14 hours. A lot of people just didn't like it. A lot of people did like it, but a lot of people didn't like it. It just got old. I'm sorry. I was having a little moment though. It was funny. The one person who worked at the Dollar General near us, no, he's no longer there. But he used to play his own music, which is why he's no longer there, I think, partly. And the one day he walked in and they were playing The Night Begins to Shine.
Yeah.
And we were like, is this The Night Begins to Shine from Teen Titans Go? And they're like, yeah. And he was all excited. We knew what it was. I'm like, that's so weird.
He was a cool guy. Like when he was working, because this is like, right, it's not too far from us. We go there all the time. But it was like we got bodega vibes from that place because he's like playing the music and it was like great. A lot of fun. And
now it's not as fun.
It's not as fun now. He was very personable. And, we were in there
factor's down significantly because where else are you going to walk in and hear that song?
It's 20% less cool. It's probably more like 30% less cool. But there we go.
Worse than Dash. Okay, let's go.
Anyway, it's Cartoon Brew. They've been covering it, and people are like, "Yeah, Cartoon Brew doesn't know what they're talking about either." Bigots.
None of you do, because you don't tell us what we want to hear.
That's just it. People don't want to hear because there are so many people. Nope, they bring that up in the Bloomberg article, and we'll go back out to that. But they bring it up that animators are terrified now because there are so few jobs for them because Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network and Disney Channel, they're not greenlighting animated series like they were. Netflix is not greenlighting stuff like they were because there's no return on investment. They need you got to create something like a SpongeBob that's going to sell merchandise from now until the end of time to justify itself. And there were a lot of good shows. I'm not saying that some of these shows that came out weren't good.
Oh, no, there were a lot of great shows.
There were some great shows. Yep. It's so weird. Before I knew about this, I was talking to Squid King in the car today, and we were talking about Adventure Time. And we talked about how Adventure Time became more and more adult as time went on, and it dealt with weightier themes. And I said to him, isn't it kind of weird? At the beginning, Adventure Time had like a lot of toy tie-ins, and they couldn't keep the merchandise on the shelf. And then as the show aged up and the characters aged up and the audience like aged out of it, there wasn't any merchandise for it. It became like Hot Topic fodder, but there weren't toys in the toy aisle anymore. It was weird. So yeah, they don't get a return, but they still make Adventure Time stuff because, whatever, it sells DVDs nostalgia, and junk.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is their key takeaway from the Bloomberg piece. So we're going to bullet point this and we'll go back out to it. Annual advertising revenue for Cartoon Network and Adult Swim has plummeted 80% from $668.3 million in 2014 to $133.7 million in 2024. That is bad. It's like really bad. And even 2014.
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, it's like a huge. How much was it like doing before that?
But that's what I was going to say. 2014, we were on the other side of peak Cartoon Network. I think peak Cartoon Network was probably mid 2000s, maybe. And then this is when we started getting into the Steven Universe Tumblr era.
Right. That's what I was going to say. I don't think that was even how much did it make before then? Because.
Oh, I'm sure it was probably making
a lot more.
Yeah. I mean, it was Cartoon Network and Adult Swim were huge back in the late 90s, 2000s, and then it just kind of fell off. As viewers move from cable to streaming, Warner Brothers Discovery's streaming service Max has failed to attract child viewers. That's why part of why they got rid of Sesame Street, I guess, thus creating a void for Cartoon Network content. Just 13% of 10 to 12-year-old viewers have recently watched programming on Max, according to video ad firm Precise TV.
Yeah, but then, okay, yeah. So you weren't targeting them. Instead, you're doing Velma.
I know, right? Like that was
what did you expect?
Well, they said 32% for Hulu. They have a lot of anime and stuff on Hulu though too. 57 for Disney Plus and 72 for Netflix. So 10 to 12-year-olds are watching more Netflix than they are Disney.
And I guarantee you they're not counting it, but if you go to YouTube, it's even higher.
Yes. They're not counting.
They're on YouTube. They're on TikTok. That's where they're at.
Yeah. They said for preschoolers, Max is dead last. And that's, again, why they're not renewing Sesame Street. Trailing behind YouTube,
Can you imagine
Netflix.
That preschoolers is dead last and that's why they're not renewing Sesame Street. I mean, preschoolers were always glued to Sesame Street. This is just really weird to me.
It's weird this is coming up because we also talked about Sesame Street too in that same conversation. We talked about how like kids programming has changed and Sesame Street hasn't been Sesame Street in a while and viewing habits are changing. But like 13%. Now okay, so if you go back through the channel when we first started talking about this stuff, Warner Brothers actually liked us. Believe it or not, they actually liked us, and they sent us multiple care packages from Cartoon Network and from Max. And one of those was the big announcement for HBO Max, and cartoons were front and center.
They were. It says we have the redhead. They had the banner. We had the redheads, and it was all redhead cartoon characters and stuff.
And I, honest to God, thought that like they were gonna, like Cartoon Network was basically gonna move to Max, and that's okay because lots of people are gonna watch it and it'll actually probably get more views than it would on cable or whatever, because people weren't really watching cable anymore. But they really did not want anything to do with cartoons, and he made that decision 2 or 3 years ago. They pulled a bunch of Cartoon Network content off of Max. They pulled it out of the stores. You couldn't even buy digital anymore. And the creators were blindsided. Like the guy who did Infinity Trains, like, where the hell did my show go? What happened?
Yeah.
And they just didn't care.
Or girl?
It was a guy who did it. Yeah. And he's just like, yeah, what happened to my show? And even now, a lot of these people that were working on Cartoon Network shows, like, they're displaced. These are like, some of them are veteran animators. Some of them were on top of the world 10 years ago. And now they're like begging for change online. It's sad, but this is why I think so many animation types hate us, because we can see patterns, and it was very obvious that Cartoon Network was not important.
Right.
Very obvious. But if you don't want to hear it, you're just going to put your fingers in your ear and whatever.
Yeah. Well, the heyday of animations passed at this point.
It's over.
At least
that
here, I think I don't think that's necessarily the case in other locations, but here.
Yeah. Yeah. They said Warner Brothers is moving away from offering Cartoon Network content on Max. According to Bloomberg, Max only offers 11 Cartoon Network titles on its platform, even though the studio produced dozens of series. Warner Brothers is instead licensing Cartoon Network to other platforms like Hulu. Again, that makes sense, because if they're not going to do anything with it, why not make money off of it anyway? But they're not going to make any new stuff either. It's like, it is what it is. Cartoon Network is now largely focused on established IP, not original content. The network says the established IP is familiar to parents and easier to market globally. Scooby-Doo, maybe Adventure Time. Velma. Yeah, they pulled the plug on, I guess, I'm pretty sure they pulled the plug on the really ill-conceived adult Flintstones show they were going to do.
Yeah, that's what I heard, yeah.
Probably because of Velma.
Well, that, I think the Powerpuff Girl live action was.
In the Powerpuff Girl live action.
Were they going to do a live action version of Pebbles too?
Were they? I think the Flintstone series was supposed to be animated, and it was Pebbles.
Was it? I don't remember.
Pebbles as an adult in her sex life or something. Like, everybody wants to see that. I'm sure some people want to see that, but I am not one of those people. But yeah, this person, who is an executive from Warner Brothers Discovery for this month, we'll see what happens next month. In terms of marketing, the easiest way for me to do that now with established IP is with a really beloved IP. Cartoon Network is not maybe how fans remember it, but it's not dead. They shut the damn website down. They pulled the content off of Max. They got rid of the building. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you.
I don't know. Yeah. Its ghost is still there.
It's just so ridiculous to be like, oh, Cartoon Network's fine, guys. It's all fine. It's not fine. They said that, it just, Zaslav came in and everything went downhill because the guy before him actually cared somewhat about animation. Then he came in, he's just like, yeah, I don't even care about
He
the
was
Looney
from
Tunes.
Discovery. They were just reality shows they could do cheap and turn a bunch of money because they'd make it cheap. Not that I'm bashing it, because I love a lot of the ghost shows and stuff they had on Discovery. I'm just saying it was a completely different, business style, completely different demographic, and that's what he came from. And he's just approaching this with the same, I think, mentality. How we could get them cheaper, make more money on what we got, and animation is very expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, but Bloomberg, I mean, they're calling it out. This is, they had Robert Alvarez, who's a retired animator. He worked on a lot of shows. And he said, once Discovery came in, it went downhill. They said that on streaming, it doesn't look much more promising. I mean, the official corporate spin is going to be everything is fine here. Because at this point, all Warner Brothers cares about is the perception that their company is healthy.
You don't know. Here's the thing: you don't know if their properties are successful streaming wise because they're not even hosting them anymore, but they are licensing them out to other places. So they might be still doing really, really well, just not on Max, just not on Cartoon Network.
Yeah, well, here it shows you right here. Max has lost the kids. Share of children that binge watch the following. Here's the ages. This is the target demographic right here of Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon. YouTube is number one. Then Netflix.
Yeah, I said YouTube is probably number one. Yes.
Then Disney Plus. YouTube Shorts. Well, that's YouTube. Why are we calling it? Then Amazon Prime, and then TikTok.
I'm surprised TikTok's that low. I'm really surprised. Maybe because it's the younger kids. Is that the age range?
Yeah, it's 2 to 5, 6 to 9, and 10 to 12.
The thing about this too is I was listening to like some different parents talking about stuff, and they were saying that they'd rather their kids watch the older kid shows and things like Sesame Street and the older stuff, because when they're putting them on the new stuff like Cocomelon and all that other that stuff, it's so it changes pace so quickly, and it's such a short thing that it actually hypes their kids up and they can't focus on things. And then before bed, it just makes them all hyper, where they would like to put like Bear in the Big Blue House or something like that on from the years past, because it actually, their kids would be calmer. They could go to sleep. It would, they'd learn some things. It's just now it just moves so quickly that their brains are just hypercharged. And it's a problem that's unrelated to this, but related.
No skibbity toilet before bed. Timmy.
Right. I'm just saying, like, the older shows that they're trying to get rid of, people are actually looking for their kids.
Even, and I talked about this in a Sesame Street video when we were talking about, the funding getting cut and all that. And old Sesame Street had a purpose. It was definitely edutainment. And then you could tell like the Elmo effect that came in, and that was all about like selling Elmo dolls, and then it became more of a mouthpiece for politicians.
Controversial take. I hate Elmo.
I hate Elmo too.
I'm sorry.
Elmo was not when I was a kid. Elmo was, or if he was, he was.
Kick me Elmo. I just never understood it.
I don't know. But they said, Peppa Pig, Cocomelon, that's where it's at right now, and that would have been Cartoon Network's thing.
I love that one.
Yeah, so this is a true story. The guy who was the showrunner for Billy and Mandy actually gave us a shout out on his threads, and he took it down because so many ass-mad cartoon stans, not professionals, but cartoon stans, attacked him for even name-checking us.
Right, because he said we had points. We had valid points.
We had valid points.
No kidding. It's almost like we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to wrap this up.
We're going to wrap it up, guys. There it is. Everything's just kind of,
Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Yeah, Space Ghost.
I miss it.
All right. Let's wrap it up, guys. RIP Cartoon Network. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.
For more pop culture news, views, and rants, go to news.clownfishtv.com. That's news.clownfishtv.com.